Hello everyone. In this video we are going to go over another RBM setting, which is the troop overhaul. So when you enable the combat module, or it's enabled by default, specific, the troop overhaul is enabled as well. So let's go check it out, like what it actually does. So in RBM we are reworking how armors work, how the arrows work. For example, I got cheats on, so it's loading a little bit. For example, we got pierce damage arrows, and good thing I got cheats on, right? So I can show you. We got barbed-headed arrows. We got bodkin arrows, and all these types of arrows are good for different things. Bodkins are better at penetrating armor. Greased arrows are better than non-greased arrows. Barbed arrows are better than barbed arrows deal more damage, but they are worse at penetrating the armor. Also, weight of arrow matters. Lighter arrows will fly faster, but they will deal less damage. Heavier arrows will fly slower, but they will deal more damage. So you want good ratio of your arrow weight to your bow draw weight. Generally speaking, you want like between 50 and 75%, of your draw weight in pounds to be in weight of the arrow in grams. So for a 100-pound bow, you want like 50 to 75 gram arrows. So let's say 50 to 80 gram arrows, right? Roughly. In vanilla game, obviously units aren't balanced like this, so they would just underperform. Some of the archers just wouldn't be able to penetrate the armor, even though they would be high tier ones. We reworked pretty much every tree in the game. So, for example, we'll start with Vlandia. As you can see, in Vlandian tree, in the crossbowman part of the tree, you can upgrade to crossbowman, but you can again upgrade to infantry. Now, why is that? Because the AI decides randomly what are they going to pick. And historically, with the exception of maybe English or Mongols, generally speaking, majority of armies were levies were melee infantry. In vanilla game, you could have like a quarter of Vlandian army, or 1/3 could be crossbowmen, which is just not very accurate to the hypothetical setting of the game. So we are giving AI the option of player for a matter to upgrade to infantry again. This way, Vlandia will field more infantry. On the other hand, Vlandia is a cavalry faction, so this will result in, which also means that, generally speaking, AI decides 50-50 what are they going to pick when they upgrade their troops. However, according to the developers on the forums, it should preferentially pick cavalry over infantry. So if you would keep these three in the vanilla way, you would end up in half of Vlandian tree being crossbowmen, and 30% being cavalry and 20% being infantry. This way, 50-50, then 50-50 here, so we end up with 25% crossbowmen by the tier 5. We end up with 25% infantry of all kinds. Here we are again 50-50. Now here probably I will pick more cavalry than infantry, so let's say 30%, 20% here. So we end up in a situation when Vlandian will have 30% cavalry, 25% crossbowmen, and rest will be all kinds of infantry by the tier 5. So they will be infantry and cavalry heavy faction, which is, in our opinion, how they should be. But just our creative decision, we want every faction to be a little bit unique. Sturgians. So Sturgians again, this straightforward infantry focused part of the tree. This is the skirmisher part of the tree. Skirmisher can split into archers and more skirmishers. Archers then can split into better archers or two-handed axemen. There's actually, again, we want Sturgians to be more infantry focused, and also these archers actually have two-handed. These one have maybe one-handed axe, no, two-handed axe as well. All the archers have two-handed axes, so they're like a budget shock troops anyway, so they can split between being budget shock troop with bow or full-fledged shock troop with proper armor and proper two-handed axe. And here we can again split into infantry and ranged and mounted skirmishers. And why is that? Because Sturgia, at least in the fantasy of the Bannerlord, probably should be a bit more, like Viking Kiev Bannerlords, they should be a bit more infantry focused. So this way, they're not going to feel that much cavalry. Like, remember, Sturgian noble line turns into cavalry again at like tier 3, I think, or tier 4. So they end up with quite a lot of cavalry, and this way they'll end up with lots and lots of infantry and not as much archers and cavalry, because we think against Sturgia should be predominantly infantry-based faction, and we also give them unique tactic. So players should face predominantly, like Sturgian shield walls and berserkers and stuff like that. Khuzaits stayed in principle very similar, relatively light, but high-performing horse archers with mid-range armor, even on the highest tier. Decent shock cavalry. Very good foot archers, but like mid-range armor, like decent armor, but not super good. And decent melee infantry, but you can see like lots of horses in their roster, plus we all know Kansgard, their noble lineup. So predominantly horse faction. Not much was changed in overall structure. Obviously, all units were rebalanced. Empire, the main difference is that you can switch from crossbowman to legionary. This is mainly for AI, because it's by default Empire would end up with 25% crossbowmen in their army, which in our opinion is kind of ridiculous. Like Eastern Romans, Byzantines, whatever you want to call them, they didn't field huge crossbowmen armies, so this way it should be a little bit reduced. They should field 12.5% of their army as crossbowmen, and maybe 10% as archers, 15% as horse archers by the tier 5, and the rest should be infantry. So this way their dominant unit on the battlefield by tier 5 will be legionary. That's the noble lineup. Noble lineups weren't touched that much. They were rebalanced, obviously, but again, Battanian tree didn't change that much, except there is only one way to get cavalry on tier 5 instead of going from skirmishers, because it was causing a situation where Battania was fielding like 40% cavalry in high tier armies, which felt like fighting a Rohan, except Battania shouldn't be Rohan. Okay, that's what Vlandian should be. So they should be now more focused on infantry and their fians, not on the cavalry, because their cavalry is decent, but it's not as good as the Vlandian cavalry. So they should focus on what they are good at: short infantry, heavy infantry, fians. And then we have Aserai. Aserai again, switch to archer tier 3 or basic footman. Horse archers, shock troops, with a caveat. Aserai horse archers are more heavily armored than the Khuzaits, but they perform with less. Like, they don't have they don't have so many arrows. They are not that good at archery, but they are better at melee, and they are very heavily armored, so they should make them really, really, really decent also in melee. Really tanky, and their horses are obviously much more tanky than the Khuzait horses, or armor of their horses for that matter. They also reworked all the mercenary factions, so they are rebalanced as well. They are generally speaking better than they were before, so they are tier 3, 4, 6, instead of being like 2, 2, 3, 5 or something like that, or 2, 3, 4. Now they should be really forced to be reckoned with, and they should really be significant. If they are in your army, they should be able to hold their own ground, and they got like each of them got like something unique about them. For example, these guys, right? Sprout saplings, arboreal, pretty light armor. All their tier. They're very, very vast cannon. However, very good bows, good arrows, but most of all, when the combat turns to melee, they got sledgehammers. They got two-handed maces. So this makes them extremely potent, against any kind of, say, heavy infantry or heavy cavalry trying to charge them. Like, they can really hold their own. So there is something unique about them. Generally, you don't have archers that have sledgehammers. And also they are kind of like brigands, peasants originally, so it also makes sense that they get like such a simple tool, but simple but efficient. For example, lake rats. I went for idea, like, they are pikemen that have also like javelins. So again, like, don't have other pikemen with javelins in the game, so they're kind of unique. And they got very good javelin. No other food unit is throwing these huge, throwing lances. They are normally restricted to mounted skirmishers, so they can throw really heavy lances, and they got really high throwing skill. So they're like a mixed, skirmisher pikeman. So each of the mercenary troops should be really unique now. Also, like the overall mercenaries were reworked. So for some reason, Tail Worlds made the Sword Sisters as kind of a joke. Well, I turned them into formidable force now, and I gave them weapons that make some sort of sense, and give them a little bit of lore. So, for example, women are not so strong as men in the upper part of their body, but it doesn't really prevent them from using crossbows. So they are compensating for their lack of physical strength by using a crossbow. They got decent armor, decent gear, and they have a polearm, because again, like, nimble weapons like polearms are much better suited for women than something more heavy. Something more strength based. It is more dexterity based weapon, and weapon that is meant to keep enemies at bay. So it's lower level pike, but works really nice. So they can shoot their crossbows and then keep the enemies at bay with the pike. Now, Sword Sister is like well equipped, you know, female mercenary with two-handed sword. Again, two hands are easier to handle than one-handed sword, and she has really decent gear for her tier, so she should be able to handle her own. And finally, these are really based on the samurai vibes from the Sengoku Jidai period. Like if you are into this kind of stuff, essentially, yeah, they have mid-range bow because, as I said, women are so strong in the upper body, but they have high bow skill, which means they can shoot it really fast. They got good quality arrows. They got shield on their back, so they are very well protected from incoming fire. They have shield on their back while they shoot their bow, and they got glaive, which is the weapon that was often used by Onabushi, like by the wives of samurai. It is essentially similar unit, but on foot, and instead of having a shield on the back, she has two sets of arrows instead. So she's shooting from the melee range, but as you can see, like overly, they are very well equipped and they are in the like in the samurai style. So it's a little bit of an Easter egg, essentially female samurai wives. I went for this kind of vibe, and they got a little bit different. Yeah, it's gonna go the higher tier glaive. So this one is a little bit better in melee, and she can shoot for longer. This one is, well, she's on horseback and she can tank some shots while doing party and shot, essentially. Then there are the spearmen. So there's another hireling group. So you can go to hireling spearmen and hireling pikemen. You also have some heavy throwing axes, and an elite pikeman. And again, like I try to go for the vibe of these mercenaries have set armor sets from all the cultures because they're not culture specific. That's the whole idea. Like they are from all parts of Colorado. Again, hiring crossbowmen, very good quality crossbow, even on tier 4. One set of bolts, good mace, and Pavi's shield. So they're both decent melee and ranged combat. And then warbowman here, and 2 sets of arrows, very good bow, and he has falcons, so they got the weapon of or sledgehammer. So again, like you got some kind of, let's call it a little bit of sauce, like this way the mercenary units are a little bit unique. Finally, we got this lineup is a little bit more of the Eastern lineup. Sellsword, mercenary horse archer. We went for the vibe of Lancer and horse archer at the same time. And again, the mercenaries now should be really like worth their wage. They have really good equipment, and they are very very diverse because they are from multiple cultures. And mercenary macemen, but they got also lots of throwing spears, so they can skirmish as well. So hybrid skirmisher infantry. obviously there are more mercenary types in the game. Khuzaits, they are essentially budget Kansguard. So if you can get Kansguards, like they're like lighter version of them, like, but same principle. Glaives, very good with bow, very good with arrows. They got very high skills, but they got relatively low light equipment. But they got 110 bow skill on tier 3, so like their damage is extremely good, but they got like relatively light equipment. And they're all the mercenary factions are like this, so each of them should have some unique flavor, and that's what the unit overhaul does. It makes the game balanced for the combat module. Like, the only final thing I want to mention from the tree is some units will have shoulder strapped shields, like these Battalions, and in battle they will protect them if but I'll go over this feature in another video specifically, because these are the shoulder strap shield feature. But if you have it on, like, some of the units will have shoulder strap shields, and they will make them more capable against cavalry charges and against arrows. So yeah, that's it really. Thank you for watching.